Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode on J of All Trades. Today I'm going to continue a renovation in my bathroom here, and I'm going to be changing the entire shower valve as well as all the lines here. And so I'm going to get rid of all of this copper, the hot and cold side, and I'm going to cut it and continue on with PEX. All the fittings that I'm going to be using here today is going to be SharkBite Max, which is a newer version of SharkBite. So here is the old shower valve, and I'm going to be replacing it with this brand new one here that I got off of Amazon. And here you can see this has a hand shower, and then it has the cold water coming in on this side. Then on the top here you have this piece that goes up to the shower head, and then on the bottom you have it going to the faucet, and on the left side we have the hot water. So we're going to be using 5 fittings for this particular valve here, and I want to put it right here. So I'm going to be replacing all this copper, cutting it out, and I'll be replacing it with PEX. First thing I'm going to do is take everything apart. I'm going to be throwing out this old shower fitting here, and we're going to be putting brand new fittings on here. So I'm going to be prepping the new valve here with the fittings, and we want to get this on first because it'll make the job a lot easier to do. So here I have SharkBite Max fittings, and they're 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch MNPT, and these are the newer versions of SharkBite. Now I'm going to include links in the description below, and here you can see that it has an O-ring in the inside of it, and it's rated for 400 PSI. So this is rated for quite a bit of pressure. Now I'm going to start putting Teflon on these fittings and start fitting them in here on the valve. And I'm simply just gonna tighten this snug on here and make sure that everything is nice and tight. You'll notice that I'm going around about 5 or 6 times with the Teflon tape, and I just want to do that to ensure that this is going to be a nice tight seal, because this is going to be inside of the wall. So now we have this valve all prepped and ready to go with this 5 fittings here. I'm now going to continue removing all the copper that I need to remove, and I'm going to be cutting here at the hot water line and here at the cold water line. Now I'm going to take a measurement and mark exactly where I want my valve to be. So I'll place my valve about 47 to 45 inches above the floor. Here I'm just cutting 2 supports here, and these 2x4s work perfectly to space out the valve from the back of the wall. Now you want to make sure that everything is all level and then secured to the wall. Now I'm going to put the second piece here, and this is going to serve as a second support for the bottom of the valve. And here again, I'm just making sure that everything is level and it is secure to the wall. Now we're just going to make sure we draw a center line here so we know exactly where the center is, and we're going to secure the valve in place with 4 screws. As I've mentioned before, I've gotten this entire shower valve set off of Amazon. So I'm going to include a link in the description below so you guys can go out there and get it if you'd like. Now everything is all set and ready to go for the piping, and we got 5 fittings on there. Now we want to make sure that we cover these 2 pipes here because they are open and you do not want to get debris in them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start drilling some holes here to pass my PEX pipe through these 2x4s here, so I can get down to the copper piping. I'm now going to measure the length of PEX that I need to get from the copper pipe to my valve. For the hot water line, I'm going to be using red PEX. I'm going to be using this tube cutter here to cut my PEX, and it gives a nice clean cut. Here I'm going to be using a deburring tool, and I'm going to include a link in the description so you guys can pick one up. It's very important to clean out the edges so that when we put the fittings on, everything will fit nice and snug and it'll avoid any leaks in the future. Now when you're deburring this pipe, you're going to see on the other side that these little shavings come off of those edges. And here, another great thing about this tool is you can stick the pipe in there and then mark exactly where the fitting needs to go all the way down to. And this can ensure that your fitting is fully on there. So I really like that feature about this. Here we have a wire brush cleaner for copper piping, and I'm going to include a link in the description. It will ensure that the fittings will fit nice and flush on there. And then of course you want to deburr your pipe, so that deburrs the inside and outside of this copper piping. Now we're going to use a SharkBite Max coupling to install onto this copper piping here. And you're going to push this all the way down until it snaps all the way in. And make sure it's fully seated in there. Now this stuff really grabs on really tight. I'm very impressed. Now it's very easy to transition from copper to PEX, as you can see, using these fittings. And here is where my mark is. So you want to push that down until you get all the way down to that mark there. And that's how you know that you're fully flush and seated inside of that fitting. I'm now going to cut a short piece of PEX to go from this other piece of pipe here into my valve. And so I'm going to be using an elbow here, and I'm just going to snap it right in place and then snap this right into the valve fitting. It's amazing how quick and easy these SharkBites make the job. Now, in the event that you actually have to remove something here, it's so easy to remove. All you need is this tool right here by SharkBite, and I'm going to include a link in the description. But basically, you just put this tool right here in between the fitting, and you can press it and you can tug on the pipe and it comes right out. And as you can see again here, how easy it is to just disconnect this pipe out of here. So that's something handy for you to get. Now we're going to prepare everything for our cold water line. And here I'm just using a level to make marks. And of course, you're going to cover your line before drilling. And once you get everything all set and ready, you're going to prep your piping and deburr, of course. And then we're going to put our coupling on here, snap it right in place, give it a nice push. And we're going to take a measurement for the length of our PEX again. And I'm going to be using blue PEX for the cold water line. At first I was a little bit skeptical about using SharkBite when it first came out. And as I've used the original one in my basement where pipes are exposed, I am able to tell you that this stuff really works. And so the SharkBite Max is definitely going to be a lot better than the original one. And it is fully rated for these kind of pressures. So I can sort of sleep at night a little bit better knowing that these things are rated for such high pressures. So here again, you want to make sure that you snap these in to those marks. And now we have our hot water and our cold water line ran here. And so now we're going to start running everything else. The next thing I'm going to do is install this 2x4 here. And this is going to serve as a support for the handheld shower. Here I'm adding a piece of wood to bring the fitting out to be flush with the finished wall. And that finished wall is going to include the backer board as well as a tile. So this has to fit flush with the tile. This fitting that I'm using here is called a SharkBite drop ear elbow. I'm going to be using 3 of these today, one for the shower head, one for the handheld shower, and one for the faucet in the bottom. And so here I'm going to be using white PEX, and this white PEX is going to go to the faucet, the handheld shower, and the shower head. And once again, I'm just basically going to snap this in and make sure it's nice and snug in that fitting there. And I'm going to use an elbow to go straight into my valve, and I'll use a short piece here and go straight into these 2 fittings, and I'll be good to go for my handheld shower. After doing some further measurements, I noticed that this piece of wood is not thick enough, and so I used a thicker piece of wood to put here to bring this fitting out a little bit further to be flush with my finished wall. And so this is the great thing about these fittings here. You can adjust things as you go. This is one of the great things about working with PEX. It literally offers you flexibility as you're working. Now here I'm going to install a support for the shower head, and we're going to make sure everything is level and secure to the wall. And I'm just going to measure the center point where the shower head will be, and then we'll install this drop ear elbow fitting right here. Once again, I'm going to be using a piece of wood to bring this out so that it is going to be flush with the wall when the fitting gets on there. And so I'm going to secure this drop ear elbow here, and then we'll run our PEX as well. Now I'm going to be measuring to cut a support for the faucet, and I'm using a 3/4 inch thick piece of wood here, and I'm just going to be securing the drop ear elbow to this fitting. And of course you want to measure your midpoints here and make sure that that's sitting in the middle, and then we're going to install the drop ear elbow right on the bottom of that valve. Next, we're gonna connect our PEX to this piece, and I was able to just screw this out, connect it to the PEX, which made it a lot easier, and then screw this fitting right back in where it was before. So once again, the flexibility is great. And there we have it. Everything is all piped and ready to go for the shower head, for the handheld shower, and the faucet. Now we're ready to leak test everything. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be using some plugs here. These are 1/2 inch plugs, and I'm going to plug 2 of these here, this handheld shower opening and also the shower head opening at the top. And we're going to start testing the faucet in the bottom. So I'm going to remove this protective cover over the valve here, and I'll be connecting the handles for the control so we can let the water flow out, and then we can test for leaks in the entire system here. So this top one right here does a selection of the shower head, the handheld shower, and the faucet. Today I'll be using the shower head plug, and I'll include a link in the description. Here you can see it has a gasket on it to seal, and we're gonna just screw this straight into here. And again, this is a 1/2 inch shower head plug, and we're gonna engage the faucet in the bottom here, turn the water on, and then we're gonna start backing off with this plug. And here you can see water's flowing out. So what this does is it allows us to just see the water flow and check for leaks, and we can just screw it right back in to stop the water right away. So while you're doing all of this, the entire system is pressurized, and here I'm just gonna remove the entire plug and just run the water as normal here. And as you can see, it's just flushing out some dirty stuff. And now I'm gonna take this plug out, and I'll plug the bottom here, and we're gonna test the handheld shower fitting here now. Personally, I just found it a lot easier to test without the plug, but the plug is definitely good to use if you want to shut the water off in case of an issue. And now we're going to test the shower head fitting here, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're just going to run the water and pressurize the entire system. And now I'm going to take a look around everywhere and check for leaks. Unfortunately, during my check, I found one leak, and it was right here at the valve. This fitting here looks like it can use some more Teflon, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that tool that I showed you earlier to remove the fittings, and I'm going to redo the Teflon. So 1, 2, 3, I was able to pop this out, and now I'm going to remove the fitting and take off all the Teflon, clean it out, and then redo the Teflon and put a couple extra wraps around there. This just shows you how easy it is to correct an issue. If you have a leak or any problems here, you can just take off these fittings and redo it. Now, if this was soldered, you'd have to cut the copper to remove the fitting, and then you'd have to redo the whole thing. And so this shows you the ease of use when it comes to using PEX and when it comes to using SharkBite Max fittings. Once the repair was done, I ran the water again and double checked all the fittings to make sure that there were no leaks, and I was all set to go. I want you guys to stay tuned because I'm going to continue this renovation for this bathroom, and I've got a series and a playlist so you guys can check out the entire thing. Now that you guys have watched this, I hope that it gives you a little bit more confidence to do some PEX and to do some SharkBite. And we've completed this entire project of piping this shower system up. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel so you can continue to get more videos like this one. And I'll see you guys on the next one.